where we'll create a scrumptious holiday meal with all of this. It's just a decorated, beautiful holiday table. It's a holiday meal you'll never forget, and it's all coming up.
Jingle with Rania Harris is being presented by Foodland. Foodland, close to home for the holidays.
First thing you sit down to the holiday meal is the salad. So it's critical that the salad be the absolutely beautiful focal point of the table. Salads have to be made at the last minute, but not this one. This is going to be made well ahead, and that's a good thing. Now we need 4 balls here, and I want you to pour the melon bar and put it in a pot. This pot you're going to add your poaching liquid, starting off with 2 cups of wine and only quality wine. You also need a cup of port wine. Some fresh squeezed orange juice is next. 1 cup fresh squeezed orange juice. And what we want to do is we want to add in next some sugar. And I have here about 1/2 cup of the sugar. Next, crystallized ginger flavor, and I've got about 2 tablespoons of the crystallized ginger that I chopped and a cinnamon stick. Now stir this around, bring it to a boil, and then put a lid on it and lower the heat and let this cook on top of the stove for only 20 minutes or so. That means the pears will be cooked, and what you want to do at that point is take them out with a slotted spoon, and you can see how nice and red they got, and drain them on paper toweling. And this is what it looks like when they've come out and they've drained. And I've even fanned my pears a little bit to show you with a knife so that when I spread them on the salad, they'll look very pretty. Now, the next thing you have to do is you have to make sure you reduce your poaching liquid down to 3/4 cup. And that means you cook it on top of the stove, as I've done here, long enough for it to reduce and it looks like it's a syrup. And that always you want to make sure you do while it's uncovered. And then you cool it and reserve it because you're going to be needing it for the dressing in just a little bit. Now, all good salads need croutons, and our croutons are absolutely gorgeous. I used a leaf cookie cutter, and I simply cut leaves out of a dense bread, and I toasted my leaves in the oven, 350-degree oven until they're toasted. Want you to make sure that you have 8 leaves for 4 salads. Setting those aside, you can now make the dressing, and again, the dressing can be made a day ahead as well. Actually, all of this can even be done 2 days ahead. You'll need to whisk in a bowl 2/3 cup of extra virgin olive oil, and you'll want to add to this some red wine vinegar, and I have about 1/3 cup. Then you'll add in your blue cheese, and what you need here is about 1/2 cup of a crumbled blue cheese. Next, you'll want to add in some shallot that you chop out a tablespoon and some thyme, and I have here about 2 teaspoons. To this, you'll want to season this with a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. And remember how we had to poach off that, or cook off that poaching liquid? Well, here's where you add it, about 1/4 cup. Add that in next and whisk all of these ingredients together, and then you can put this in the refrigerator because now you have your vinaigrette. Now, at the end of the show, I'm going to show you how you put this together. But what you'll need next are the field greens so that you can compose the salad. You're also going to be needing, along with those field greens, some more crumbled blue cheese and some walnuts. And you want to make sure that you toast the walnuts. Then what you'll do is you'll put it all together, and you're going to see exactly what we're going to do at the end of the show when we compose our salad for our table. To recap the ingredients, you'll need 4 bossed pears, peeled and halved and cored, 2 cups of dry red wine, 1 cup of port wine, 1 cup fresh squeezed orange juice, 1/2 cup sugar, 2 tablespoons chopped crystallized ginger, 1 cinnamon stick, 8 slices of white bread, 2/3 cup of extra virgin olive oil, 1/3 cup of red wine vinegar, 1/2 cup crumbled blue cheese, 1 tablespoon finely chopped shallot, 2 teaspoons fresh thyme chopped, salt and pepper, 1/4 cup of the poaching syrup, and 6 cups of mixed field greens along with blue cheese and toasted walnuts for garnish. Then what you'll do is, this is so critical to the recipe, folks, it's the big waffle. There's going to be some mild rice stuff in it. You want to make sure everything doesn't close up. Now, how do you season this? Well, first you need some kosher salt and some fresh cracked black pepper. And be real liberal when you're seasoning this. And you want to make sure that you get it all around. Put this in a roasting pan, and I like using a non-stick roaster for this. And then you'll need some sage and some thyme, and this is what you need. You need to just scatter this on top as well. For both of these crown roasts, you need about 2 tablespoons of the thyme, and you're going to need, or teaspoons, and then 2 teaspoons of the sage. So you've got the sage and you've got the thyme on here. Then you have to make a little glazing liquid. Well, that's easy to do. You're going to be doing this with some molasses and soy sauce. And what I have here is about a cup of molasses and a cup of soy sauce. Mix them together, and you'll know that you'll have to brush your crown roast with this basting liquid while you're roasting it. Also, critical to the recipe are the vegetables that give it flavor. Some chopped onions, scatter those around. What I have here is about 4 of these big onions, and I'm simply cut them into large pieces, and I want you to scatter those around. Also, want you to do the same with carrots. I've got 4 carrots, nice big ones. I peeled them. Again, I left pieces rather large, and I'm going to scatter those around as well. Going to dot this with some unsalted butter, and then I'm going to pop this into a 350-degree oven. 15 to 18 minutes a pound is the rule of thumb when you're roasting the pork. An internal desired temperature when you insert the meat thermometer, 150 to 160 degrees. Remember to continue basting this while you're roasting it with this molasses soy mixture for a wonderful, gorgeous browning effect and flavor. Now what we're going to do is we're going to address how we're going to make that wild rice stuffing, and that's a great one as well. When you're making the wild rice stuffing, the most important thing you have to do ahead of time is you have to soak your apricots first in a little bit of sherry and water. Overnight, you want to soften them. And then after you've done that, what you want to do is drain that liquid. And I've started off with 2 cups of dried apricots. Drain the liquid, discard it, and then you're going to have to chop the apricots coarsely. That's like one of the most important parts of the recipe, and then toss them in a large, big bowl. This is going to be the easiest stuffing recipe you've ever made. Everything now just continues to go into this bowl, starting off with some chopped fresh parsley. I have about a half of a cup here. Then you'll want to add in a half of a teaspoon of freshly grated nutmeg and a half of a teaspoon of ground cloves. Also, some dried cranberries go in next, and I have about a cup. Next ingredient, toasted pine nuts. Do remember to toast those pine nuts. 1 cup. Now, all in all, you're going to be needing about 8 cups of cooked wild rice. So what you want to do is cook off the wild rice, drain the liquid from the rice, and you're going to be needing here a significant amount of rice. And in your recipe packet, or when you get the recipes off the website, we'll tell you how to cook the wild rice. You can just follow the package directions. Just make sure you toss that in here as well. Now, the next ingredients have to be cooked before they're added to this. And what I've done is I've already started that process. I took a whole cup of butter. It's important. I know it sounds excessive, but I took a cup of unsalted butter, and I sauteed a cup of chopped scallions in here, along with 1½ cups of minced celery. And what I want you to do, once you've just started the process and they're just almost cooked through, you take this entire mixture and you put it in with your wild rice, and you make sure that you season this with some salt and some coarsely ground black pepper. You know how I love pepper to taste. And at this point, your stuffing is complete. You'll put this in a casserole outside of the pork. You don't want to cook this with the pork, and it only takes 30 minutes in a 350-degree oven. Everything's cooked now. The object is just to heat it through. We're going to stuff the cavity of our pork with this and serve the rest of it alongside. And it's absolutely the best stuffing. And all you need now is a great chutney to go with this meal. You know, I don't think that you could possibly even consider serving a crown roasted pork without making a terrific chutney. Chutneys are wonderful. The best part about chutneys, other than, of course, the flavor of the chutney, is the fact that you can make this about 3 weeks in advance and just store it in the refrigerator. That, to me, makes a lot of sense when preparing a holiday meal. All you have to do is throw everything in a pot and cook it, and that's about what I'm going to start doing here. You want to make sure that you start the first ingredients for about 15 minutes before you add the fruit, and that would be your cider vinegar to begin in a pot. And what I have here is about 2 cups of the cider vinegar. Then you want to add in a lot of diced onion, and I've got here a medium onion. You can add a little more, it's okay if you want to. It's not going to hurt the recipe, but make sure you dice it up. Also add about a half of a cup of water. Now, this is real important, the ginger. You want a whole tablespoon of ground ginger, and you want to make sure that you peel the orange, you grate the orange peel fresh. Don't put anything reconstituted in here, about a tablespoon of that. Grate it up, throw it in. Some salt is necessary. Start off with a teaspoon. If you think you need more later on, go ahead and add it, but for now, just a teaspoon. Then what you want to do is you want to add in about 2 teaspoons here, about a half a teaspoon of ground cinnamon and garlic. Garlic is real important. It's also important that it's fresh. We have 1 garlic clove and a little bit of the crushed red pepper flakes going next, only about a quarter of a teaspoon. Cook this for 15 minutes on top of the stove. Bring it to a boil, lower the heat, and let it simmer. Don't cook off all the liquid, but here's what it looks like. Basically, you've cooked the onion. Now you need to add in, and you won't believe this, guys, but you need to add in a lot of brown sugar, 3 whole cups. Chutneys are sweet. That's very, very, very important to the recipe. And you're going to add in the fruit next, and you've got a lot of fruit. You've got 2 Bartlett pears, and all I did was core and dice them. I didn't even bother to peel them. And a Granny Smith apple, same but I did core and dice it. And fresh cranberries, 2 cups. Love cranberries. And next what you have is a half of a cup of dried currants. Now, this is the part where you let it come back to a boil. You lower the heat. You put a lid just a little bit on top. Don't steam it. Let this cook for an hour. Hour on a low heat, just, so it's a slow simmer. And then when it's all done, you want to cool it down because you serve your chutneys cold. And you serve it cold in a real pretty bowl, and you put it next to the pork. And in addition to any drippings that you get from the pork to make a gravy, you want to make sure that you serve your chutney. And then that would complete the service of your crown roasted pork with your apricot wild rice stuffing and, of course, your fabulous chutney. Oh, it is a good dinner, and I can't wait to show you what it looks like. And to recap the recipes for the crown roast of pork: 2 8-pound crown roasts of pork, kosher salt and freshly ground black pepper to taste, 2 teaspoons of dried sage, 2 teaspoons of dried thyme, 1 cup of molasses, 1 cup of soy sauce, 4 medium onions, 4 large carrots, 6 tablespoons of unsalted butter, and then you can go on to your wild rice stuffing. The wild rice stuffing takes 2 cups of dried apricots that you've soaked overnight in equal amounts of sherry and water to cover, 1/2 of a cup of chopped fresh parsley, 1/2 of a teaspoon of freshly grated nutmeg, 1/2 of a teaspoon of ground cloves, 1 cup of dried cranberries, 1 cup of toasted pine nuts, 8 cups of cooked wild rice, 1 cup of unsalted butter, 1 cup of chopped scallions, 1 1/2 cups of minced celery, and again, salt and fresh ground black pepper to taste. The spice fruit chutney takes 2 cups of cider vinegar, 1 medium onion chopped, 1/2 of a cup of water, 1 tablespoon of ground ginger, 1 tablespoon of grated orange peel, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, 1 garlic clove minced, 1/4 of a teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes, 3 cups of firmly packed golden brown sugar, 2 Bartlett pears cored and diced, 1 Granny Smith apple cored and diced, 2 cups of fresh cranberries, and 1/2 of a cup of dried currants. You know, it doesn't matter. You as long as you leave for dessert. And when you're raspberry English try for dessert, you gotta leave a lot of room. What a wonderful recipe. first thing you have to do is make what we call in the industry a simple syrup. And a simple syrup is really simple to make. Off with 3 tablespoons of water along with 3 tablespoons of granulated sugar in a pot with some cognac. And the to your friends is simply to cook this until the sugar dissolves and it turns into a syrup, just a few minutes. And this is what it looks like when it's all done. This is what's going to be the liquid, the soaking syrup that we're going to soak our cake with in just a bit when we assemble the trifle. Now the next step is to make the custard. And I want you to know, one of the reasons why I really like making an English trifle is because the English trifle can be made from the day before. In order to make custard, you need 2 cups of whole milk. And what you want to do to make this a mocha is you want to add to this some espresso powder. And I have 1 tablespoon of the instant espresso powder here. Also going to flavor this with some vanilla bean that we will remove when we're done making our custard, but you want to bring this to a boil, to a simmer, and at that point what you can do is you can start whisking your eggs. And what I have here are 6 egg yolks, and I'm simply going to whisk these together in a bowl, and I'm going to add to this some granulated sugar, 3/4 of a cup. And you want to whisk, 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 and then you want to add in cornstarch because this, of course, is what's going to hold the custard together, and I have about 1/4 of a cup. Make sure that you really incorporate the sugar with the cornstarch well. And now the important part of the recipe for the custard is that you don't curdle the eggs or you don't break them. What it means is simply this. You're going to be adding to this the hot milk liquid. So you have to temper the eggs by adding in the hot milk very slowly. You'll add a little bit at a time, and you'll whisk a little bit, and then you'll add a little bit more. And you keep doing this until, in fact, the eggs are every bit as warm now as the milk that you started out with. Once you've done that, and really 3 ladles will do you take this all back over to your burner. And now you take your warm egg mixture and you add that in here and you cook this on top of the stove with your chocolate. You're going to add the chocolate in. And we have a semi-sweet chocolate that we're using here, about 3 ounces. So now we've made our mocha with our coffee and our chocolate. And you'll cook this until a custard or a pudding forms. Won't take but about 3 minutes. Stay with it. Don't leave it. And keep whisking the whole time and then take out that vanilla bean. Here's what it looks like when it's done and when it's cooled. It just looks like good old-fashioned chocolate pudding, only a lot better. Whip some whipping cream at this point and then add it in. And all in all, you'll want to start off with about 1 1/3 cups of chilled whipping cream. Don't use it all. Save a little bit for the top of the trifle. And simply mix this together so that you've lightened your pastry cream with your whipping cream. And now you can start the assembly process. The assembly process requires, first of all, a nice bowl. And what you need to do is you need to buy 8-inch sponge cakes, and you want to slice them horizontally. And what I want you to do here is put one of the pieces down and soak it with the simple syrup, the bottom of the bowl. That's why you made your simple syrup. And then you're going to take some raspberry preserves, and you're going to, these are just regular old raspberry preserves you buy from the supermarket, no magic here. And have a nice big jar on hand, because if you have to use a little more than what the recipe calls for, that's okay. It calls for 3/4 of a cup, but don't think for 1 minute that you only have to use that much. Then what you'll want to do at this point is you'll want to throw on some frozen raspberries and the custard. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the chocolate custard next, put that on top, and then smooth that around and add some of the frozen raspberries. Once you've added the frozen raspberries on top of this, then what you want to do is you want to repeat this process. And you'll continue to do this until you've used up all the cake and all of your filling. Then you bring it back, put it in the refrigerator, bring it back, top it with the rest of the whipped cream, and garnish it with some fresh raspberries that you've brushed with some red currant jelly, some grapes and some sugar, and have the most beautiful Christmas dessert ever. A mocha and raspberry trifle is something that you must have on your holiday table. I absolutely adore it. Now we're going to go take a look at that table. But first, to recap the mocha and raspberry trifle ingredients, you'll need 3 tablespoons of water, 3 tablespoons of sugar, and 3 tablespoons of cognac for the syrup. For the pastry cream, you'll need 2 cups of whole milk, 1 tablespoon of instant espresso powder, 1 vanilla bean split lengthwise, 6 large egg yolks, 3/4 of a cup of sugar, 1/4 of a cup of cornstarch, 3 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate chopped, and 1 3/4 cups of chilled whipping cream. To assemble the trifle, you'll need 2 purchased 8-inch round sponge cakes, 3/4 of a cup of raspberry preserves, 2 cups of frozen raspberry preserves unthawed, 2 cups of fresh raspberries, 2 tablespoons of red currant jelly melted with 1 tablespoon of water, 2 teaspoons of sugar, and to garnish, some red grape clusters or red currant bunches. Now here's what the perfect holiday table should look like. Let's recap our recipes. Starting off with our poached pear salad with the blue cheese vinaigrette and our leaf croutons, and going off to our beautiful crown roast of pork that we glazed with the molasses and soy, and then we filled the cavity with the wild rice stuffing, bearing in mind that you always need an extra bowl of stuffing on the side. Now for a veggie, which we didn't make, but you have to have a veggie on your table, we have some steamed broccoli with julienne of red bell pepper. From there we go to our chutney, which we want to make sure we always serve alongside of the pork. And then for the pièce de résistance, we've got the mocha raspberry trifle. Now to dress your table, make sure you polish the silver, you clean the crystal, and bring out the best china. Incorporate lots of reds and greens and tons of candles for a warm holiday glow. And there you have a festive holiday table. Well, I enjoyed being with you for this holiday special. I hope you did too, and I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. I'm Rania Harris, and that's what's cooking.